Well, now for the big news making headlines around the world. The acoustic transmissions at the center of the underwater search for flight MH370 are no longer believed to have come from its black box. Australian authorities have now ruled out a large swathe of the Indian Ocean as the final resting place of flight MH370. And they've also abandoned the current underwater search for the jet. The developments came as a U.S. Navy official queried whether the missing plane ever went there in the first place. The official told U.S. media that most countries had, by now, agreed that those so-called pings came from a man-made source unrelated to the missing jet. He asked that if they were from the black boxes, the devices would have been found by now, and that the pings could have been produced by search vessels or even the towed pinger locator itself. Just hours later, Australian authorities confirmed the news when they ended the robot submarine's mission.
The search in the vicinity of the acoustic detections can be considered complete. The area can now be discounted as the final resting place for MH370.
The task to locate the plane somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean always promised to be a difficult one. Authorities said from the start this was the worst possible scenario. On March 20, it was satellite images of possible objects in the search zone that demanded the world's attention. The objects were large and white and potentially associated with MH370. Over the preceding days, hundreds of objects were detected, each and every one ruled out. As crucial days passed and more data was refined, the search zones shifted on a daily basis from the wild, roaring 40s in the far south to close to the West Australian coast. Then what was thought to be that key breakthrough. First, an acoustic pulse discovered by a Chinese vessel, and then soon after by Australia's Ocean Shield. In all, 4 of the pings were deemed significant, but they were never redetected. Still, authorities threw extensive resources at a vast underwater search. The autonomous mini-submarine, the Bluefin 21, would scan 850 square kilometres of the ocean floor. It came back with nothing, and despite so much promise, the search will now move into a new phase, one that's expected to take at least 12 months. By no means, though, are authorities giving up.
We're still very confident that the resting place of the aircraft is in the Southern Ocean and along the 7th ping line.
But this mystery remains unsolved. The agony and uncertainty for the families of those on board remains real.
他自己也承认，这地方不是原始声音，这地方是他们演绎的。到底你是个数据，什么叫原始数据？
And given what's known and what's been found so far, this search now appears to be back at square one.
Well, we spoke with an aeronautical expert who helped to set in perspective the difficulties in pinpointing where the missing plane could have ended up.
The unique situations are with an aircraft, it's that it's a moving target, quite literally a moving target. In the case of a long-range aircraft like a 777, it's several thousand miles of a potential search area. So that makes it very difficult, one. But two is that in this case, it's not as if the radar, the satellite, and the acoustic pings were all in the same area. The radar coverage was only up closer to Malaysia, the satellite coverage was a certain area, and the pings were in yet another area. So it's not as if this were more of a triangulation where you had radar data saying it was here, satellite saying it was here, and ping data saying it was there, and those were all in a very defined small radius of a few miles. It was those data gave you data points over a several thousand-mile radius. So in this case, it didn't really help to narrow things down because the data was giving different information.